episode 16 of the Celtic Cast On podcast. My name is Kelly. I'm coming to you from the beautiful east coast of Canada, and it's the first episode of the new year. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2018. If you have watched my Vlogmas, you kind of have got an idea of what we did over the Christmas holidays. I loved making the Vlogmas videos. I like doing videos and recording it and putting it all together. I like the fact that I didn't have to talk a lot. Introvert. But it did get a little bit much doing it every day because the further I got into it, the more I wanted to add to it. And the editing and that in the evening just got a little much in the end. So I'm kind of thinking of ways I could make it different next year if I decide to do it. Possibly do 2 days and combined into one video, which would mean less editing for me because it just being up till after midnight and then having to work or function the next day doesn't happen with me anymore. So we'll see what happens with that. But I did enjoy Vlogmas. You will have got to see what I've been working on. So there's going to be a little bit of a recap here of some of the things that you might have seen already during Vlogmas, but I'll try not to repeat myself too much. So we did have, basically since Christmas break, we have had past minus 20 degrees Celsius weather. It's been so cold that the kids couldn't get out to play in the snow that we did get on Christmas Day. So it's been kind of rough that way. We haven't been able to get out and enjoy the outdoors like we usually do, especially when we were off for 2 weeks. But the cold has kind of died down. It's not as cold as it was. But our snow just isn't staying. We had a crazy rainstorm on the weekend. It took every speck of snow we had. Places were flooding, there was so much rain. And today we're supposed to get 15 centimeters of snow. So it just can't decide what it's going to be this year. Snowy or rainy or no snow or freezing cold. So we're just going with the flow. So I'm hoping for more snow. It has, well, it's kind of snowing tiny flakes right now, but nothing that really is accumulating. It's supposed to start later this afternoon and we're supposed to get some accumulation, so fingers crossed. I want to go snowshoeing. I haven't even gone snowshoeing yet this year because we've had no snow to do it, or it's been too cold to do it. So enough rambling. I'm drinking some David's tea today. It's pear blossom and it was a gift from Sarah for Christmas and it's delicious. Even before you even open the bag you can smell it and it smells so good. So yeah, let's get started and we'll talk about some crafting. So this year around Instagram and that, there is kind of a theme going of #making9, and the idea is that you pick 9 different projects that you want to complete by the end of the year. And Emma from Eldenwood Craft is running a knit along for that, or a craft along I guess, and the idea is that if you finish all 9, you get put into a draw for prizes, etc., etc. So when I originally saw the Making 9 thing do its whole loop, I was thinking to myself that I wasn't going to do it. Because one, my making it needs to be almost spontaneous. I am leaving myself the ability to change anything at any point if I decide that I want to change the route of the square that I'm going to be working on. And if I don't finish it, I don't finish it. And if I decide tomorrow I don't want to do any of it, I'm not going to do any of it. So that being said, here is what I have for my Making 9. So this podcast, I'm going to be working my way through, showing you what I'm working on, what my whips are, what I want to do for the Making 9, because I'm going to be splitting out my Making 9. It's not all going to be knitting. I'm going to incorporate knitting, quilting, crocheting, and embroidery this year. So that being said, I think I can get the Making 9 done in the sense that I'm going to be doing everything that I love to be doing and still accomplish what I want to accomplish. So here we go. let's talk about the knitting first. Actually, I decided that for 2018 I was going to make 12 pairs of socks. This all came about because I thought I was going to be able to knit a pair of socks this year to start off the year with my scraps from last year's socks. Turns out I only knit 4 pairs of socks last year, so that idea was out the window. So this year I've decided I'm making 12 pairs of socks, and it just so happens that I got a gift in a box. Well, actually it wasn't a gift, but I received this box and I thought it would be perfect for putting my box of socks in. So this is going to be my box of socks, and I have 2 pairs of socks on the go already. So these will be the first 2 pairs. Let me just show you what I've been working on. So in the first bag I have, and I should have brought my sock blocker with me. Rats. This is the Grinch sock that I was working on during my Vlogmas, and this yarn is, what's it called? Scout Swag. It's a very old skein of yarn. I don't think she dyes anymore. This was like one of my first hand-dyed sock yarns that I ever bought. So I'm just deciding to do a cable to the foot and then plain foot. What I wanted to do was the socks on a plain pattern, but silly me didn't look at the pattern well enough, and I put my cables directly in the middle on either side. That doesn't work for running the cable down the foot, so I just decided to do a plain foot on it. So I have the first sock done, and I've just barely cast on the second one. I'm kind of over these socks, so I just want to get the second one done and move on to something else. So that's the first one. Will hopefully be my first pair of socks off the needles this year. Second pair of socks is, you may remember this sock that I was working on. This is the Time Traveler colorway by Knit Picks Felici, and this was a sock that I was testing out the 12-inch circulars on, the little Addy 12-inch circulars, and it was taking me a really long time to knit it. So I did finally get it finished. I will say that I think it's, I still think it's a looser knit than what I knit with double pointeds. So I may have to go down stitch size if I do decide to knit another pair of socks on this size. But I persevered, and now I want to knit the second sock with this one too, so it doesn't feel funny, because I do think I knit at a slightly larger gauge with this. So this is the first sock. I'm still pumped about these, so I can't wait to get the second sock going, although it is on this needle. But that is hopefully my second pair of socks. So the other 10 pairs of socks are going to come from this basket. This is my box of socks in brown paper bags. Now, I got T to pick out 12 skeins from my sock yarn. I didn't watch her while she did it. I got her to put them into the bags, and I got her to staple the tops. So I have, I think I have 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah. So I have 9 pairs in here that I'm going to be surprised with, and I still have the choice whether I want to do it as a pattern sock or as a plain vanilla sock. So that is always the key for me. I can't have a pattern set out for things, because if I don't want to knit that pattern at that time, then it's just not going to work. The last pair of socks, I have a plan to use scraps from all the socks over the year. So my plan is kind of to knit those in December, but we'll see how far I get. So those are my sock knitting plans for this year. So I'm well on the way to the first 2 pairs. What else do I have in knitting? So square number 1 is the 12 pairs of socks. Square number 2 is this project that I'm going to be knitting for T. T is very into a book series right now called Guardians of Ga'Hoole. And it's a 15 book series, and she is on book 10 or 11, I think. And I came across this pattern, and here's the series. This is book 10.
I'm reading it.
Okay, so that's the book that she's reading right now. And it's a series about a family of owls. And if I can get this open, I can show you what I found. So this is the pattern that I found. It's called Owl Around. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I thought she would really love these mittens. So I asked her if she liked them, and I said that if we are going to make them, I need it to be from stash. So again, I gave her my sock yarn bucket, and because it is fingering weight that's used, and she chose these two colors. This is leftovers from the Snowflake Rabbit by Susan B. Anderson. It's not called Snowflake, that's what she calls it. I can't remember what the name of that is. I'll put it down here. Anyway, T calls her Snowflake, and this is the yarn that I used for it. It's an Opal Surprise, I think. And then this is a Cascade Heritage in a navy. So those are the two that she's chosen for hers. Now, the pattern is for a large mitten, like an adult size mitten. So I knew that wasn't going to fit her, and I had tried, I got her to try on one of my socks on her hand, because I knit those with 2.25s to see if that would be the right width for her, because I really can't alter the chart. I need the chart to stay the same. And stitch count, I think, is 72 stitches, so it's a little bit larger than my socks that I do. So I purchased some 2mm needles, 2.0s, which is a US 0, and I'm gonna try start knitting the chart on that and see if it brings it out to be a smaller mitten. I thought I could always line them as well with another mitten, so knit a liner inside them, and that might give me some more room as well. So we'll see how we go. I really want these to work out. They'll be so cute. So I hope to get to that very shortly. Now, the author of the book, Catherine Lasky, we were watching videos on her YouTube channel, and it kind of shows she did a little tour of her studio, and she had letters that people had written in, and she said that people sent her owls all the time, and I said, T, it would be really cool if we sent her a pair of these owl mittens. Because there are pairs, although these ones are done with color, there are pairs that are just the black and the cream, and I thought that would be really cool to send her. So we'll see. We'll see how these ones work out, and then I might make an adult pair, maybe. We'll see. So that's that one, and I have one more knit, and this is the knit that I am trying so very hard to finish. You'll remember it because you've seen it many times before. It's the Land Girl cardigan, and it was in an issue of Simply Knitting. Now, I banged out the second sleeve of this over Christmas so quickly, and I was so pumped that I thought I was going to get it finished before I went back to work. That didn't happen because I had already started the body, but I couldn't figure out at what point I was at. And when I started to reknit it again, I wasn't at the right point in my decreases, and there wasn't enough information on the pattern to tell me where exactly I was. That happens a lot with magazine patterns, I find. So I had to knit, and then I frogged it, and I knit, and I frogged it, and I finally got to a point where I knew where I was. So I'm working on the decreases, and it is slow going because everything is joined in one piece right now, and this is going to be a mess to try and show you too. Because I've got yarn everywhere. So this is where I am. And so I decrease it all down, and then I add the button bands and the pockets, and I'm done. So that's as far as I've got. I really want to get this done for my knit along that's happening right now, the Knit Any Sweater KAL. It ends, I believe, at the end of February. So this is my primary goal, is to get this finished. There will be another episode with Mars coming up. It's going to be posted on her channel, which is Hey Brownberry Podcast. And we hope to have that out in the next week or two. But I'll keep you updated on that. So that's my big knitting whip that I want to get finished. So the only other thing that I have in knitting to share with you, I don't actually have because I gifted it at Christmas. I made a butterfly and cocoon, Susan B. Anderson pattern. It's a little butterfly with a cocoon that he can come in and out of. I made it with Stylecraft Special DK, which is a UK yarn. Comes in tons of colors and is a great acrylic yarn. It does not feel like US Canadian acrylic, I should say that. I would definitely suggest trying it out. It's a great yarn to work with. So I gifted that to T's best friend for Christmas. So my knitting squares for my Making 9 are the 12 socks, the owl mittens. I have a sweater that I have a sweater's quantity of yarn that I've been wanting to knit my dad a sweater for forever. So I would like to knit him the Gaston pattern. And I have yarn for the thread sweater by Justina Lorkowska that I have talked about previously that I would like to knit. And there's one more pattern called Archer. It's a new one by the Blue Bee Studio. And I really love the shaping on this one. I love the arch that comes just almost under your armpits and out. I think it's really flattering, and I think I have yarn in my stash. I have two options to choose from. One is like a tealy color and one is a brighter green. So I just need to choose which one of those I want to knit it with. And those will be my 5 knitting squares. My other squares, I have a crochet square. So let's talk about that. I was telling you that I knit the butterfly and cocoon with Stylecraft Special DK. And I bought a pack, a blanket kit from Love Knitting last year, and I just haven't had a chance to use it. So what I did was I made little peg samplers. So this one, for example, is the gold colorway. So I made little peg samplers of all of them, because once you take the yarn band off, especially in a kit this big, you're not going to remember what color's what. So I made little pegs for all of them. This is a lovely little wooden dish that my dad turned. And I am keeping my blanket in this big basket that I purchased from Michael's. So I've got all the colors in there, and I'm going to crochet a blanket with it. It's a blanket kit. So the blanket kit that I bought, the color, like there's a colorway name for the whole kit, and I think it was called Carousel. But Annie from Addict 24 is actually doing a new blanket knit along or crochet along for January. They're gonna have theirs finished in January. I won't have that done, but I would like to use the pattern that she's using for it. And it's called the Woodland Blanket, Cal, C-A-L. And that's what I'm gonna work on. I have it dedicated to that basket, so I'm not going to feel like I have this big blanket sitting around, because it's gonna be in the basket and out of sight, out of mind when I don't wanna work on it. But when I do, it'll be a lovely little color play. So that's my crochet square. And the other three, there are two that are quilting squares. So let me talk about those. And I think I only have one thing with me. So one of the squares will be a new quilt. And the quilt that I would like to knit is from this book that I showed on my vlog. And it's called Quilting Every Angle. And it's the Sequoia quilt. Now, this is something that caught my eye as soon as I saw it, and I've seen it on Instagram as well. It's a very simply put together quilt, but it makes a really great statement. So I'd like to do this, and I think I have all the fabric that I need. I'm gonna do it in gray, white, navy, and yellow. I think that's what I'm planning to do anyway. So yeah, I'm planning to do that one for another square. And the second quilting square that I have on my Making 9 is this pattern. I got this at Christmas time at my local quilt shop, and it's the Twister Gnomes pattern. It's a sweet little table runner, and I thought it would be cute to have at Christmas. Now the quilt shop was selling kits to make it, so all the fabric that I need except the backing and the batting is in here, and this is more of the colors of what it's going to look like, which I really liked. I like the deeper red and the darker gray, so that is on my list to do, and I think it should be a fairly simple thing to accomplish. But I do have a quilt whip that I need to finish first, and this is so close to being done. I really wanted to have this done for my Quilt Guild's meeting in January, but it just didn't get there. So I've been working hard at getting this finished, and I think I can have it done for February. So I'll just show you where I am with it. I've kind of got it all rolled up. So I'm just doing lines down it, just a very modern quilt. Now I'll show you the back because I didn't get to show you that before, but I was trying to decide what I was going to do for the backing. This was the backing fabric that I purchased previously for it, but it wasn't wide enough because my quilt is 60 by 60 and the quilt fabric length is only 42. So I had to do something different on the back. So I decided that with my scraps, the leftovers from the blanket, I was going to make a panel down the middle, and then I would do navy on the other side. So I think it's kind of cool, something different. So that's my big quilting whip. I also have one more. At our quilt meetings, they put together little square packages for a company called Victoria Quilts. They make quilts for people who are going through chemo treatment. There's usually a quilt and a bag that goes with it that you can carry the bag with you. And the idea is that they take the blanket, the quilt is small enough that they can take the blanket with them, and it keeps them warm while they're doing chemo treatments. So each month they have these little packages available that you can take home, make a square or two, and send it back, and the idea is that we all make a quilt together. So I received 2 packages at the last meeting because I thought it was something that I could do. A lot of them are a little bit more out of my league at the minute. So this is what they made, just like a log cabin scrappy squares. So each package came with enough to make 2 squares. So here's the first 2 and the second 2. So I'll take those to the next meeting, and then they'll be able to put a quilt together out of it. So my last square on my Making 9 is an embroidery square. Embroidery is something that I've wanted to try and dabble in for a while, but I just haven't had the time. And I haven't been able to find something that I really, really like. So there is a person on Instagram called Hope, and she has Hope Broidery. That's her name on there. And she's doing a stitch along. It's going to be 52 stitches, so one stitch per week that she's going to be adding to this image. Now the image, I don't have it printed out yet, but it is a television set, and it's going to kind of be based on the screen that used to come up with all the colored stripes on it when there was no programming happening. So I just got a couple of 5-inch hoops at Michael's so that I could get that started and draw it out, and I figured that I could learn some embroidery by doing a stitch a week, and that wouldn't be taking over any of the other crafts that I'm working on, but I'll still get to learn some things. So we're going to give that a try. So that's my final square of the Making 9. I do have almost another Making 9 chart done out of things that I want to knit but I don't have yarn for. but I am knitting from stash still, so we're going to just keep with the square that I've got and see how much of it I can get accomplished. So that's all that I have for this week. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad to be back. I wanted to say that I really enjoyed like I said, doing the videos for Vlogmas, so you might see more video type things in the podcast in the future. It's just something that I like doing, so I might incorporate it into the videos here and there. So that's all I have for now. So until next time I record, I will see you then. Take care. Bye.